Hi everyone, so today's video is going to be kind of all over the place. It's not really like a specific topic that I'm talking about. I was going to try to do that, but I literally just have too many interests that I just couldn't think of one thing that I wanted to talk about. I just want to talk about all the things that I like in fashion. So it's going to be down to some like really niche things, and then there's going to be some like more popular things that I like. So yeah, I'm definitely not going to spend an equal amount of time on each topic. So I'll put timestamps down for everything that I talk about. But yeah, I just thought I would make this video because I wanted more clarity on like my own personal style, because whenever people ask me what my style is, I genuinely don't know what to say, because I think I just, like I said, I have too many interests, and I think my style is really just like a mix and match of things that I like. Really have never like sort of stuck to one thing. I think I get bored really fast, and that's why I like to sort of explore and mix things up. But I do really admire whenever people do have a specific style and they're able to stick to it. And I think that's what like being in a subculture is sort of all about. So I think it's really cool when people like have a certain style. But for me, I know my style isn't based off like a subculture. I think for me, it's always just been based off what I think is fascinating. So yeah, this video is going to be all the fashion things that I think are fascinating. Don't forget to like and don't forget to subscribe, and I'll get started with the first thing. So before filming this video, I sort of wanted to understand my style a little more and discover what my interests are. And so the way I did that was I went through my Pinterest and I looked through all of the old things that I've had saved, and scrolling through them, I sort of started to like see a pattern with everything that I like. And a common thing that I would save is clothes that have like 3D embellishments on them. And that could take form in like so many different ways. It could be like pins, it could be something as simple as like silver grommets. I love silver grommets. And it could be something crazy. Like I saw this Vivienne Westwood chicken bone shirt from 1971 that was just really unique, and that's like a crazy example of something that has that 3D element, but still like I think that's just like so bizarre, and that's what like attracted me to it. I feel like that 3D element sort of takes accessories to a different meaning, because when you think of accessories, you think of like sunglasses or like a necklace or something. I think combining accessories with clothing is just like a different way to style clothes, and I feel like really it can just add like another layer of dimension or something. And for this reason, actually, I've been really wanting a pair of Crocs, because I know they come with those little gibbets, and I feel like that gives you the opportunity to like customize and have some sort of freedom with decorating your own pair of shoes. But the only way I would want to wear them is if it was actually like really unique. Like I know Crocs did a collaboration with Christopher Kane, I think 2017, and it was like these really cool rock gibbets that were like, I don't know, just different than anything that I had ever seen before, because usually gibbets are like those like plastic ones that come in a set. I just think it's really cool to like sort of get creative with it. I've seen ones with like pom-poms on it. I've seen ones with like crazy, you know, just like decoration on them. So I think it's just really like a cool customization feature. So yeah, I think Crocs are sort of an example of that. And also I think this is something that's so DIY-able and like gives you a chance to like do some fun crafts. I've seen a lot of people get creative and recreate things that they know they can make. Like I saw this tie and it had really cool details on it with these like pins and these charms and stuff, and I was sort of like, damn, like I could make that myself. Like it looks easy to make. And I even saw this video of this girl just a few days ago actually, and I thought it was funny because it was a headband that I had already saved on my Pinterest, and then I saw the video a few days after, and she made the headband herself. Like the original headband retails for like $64, but if you can just make it yourself, like yeah, you still have to spend money, but at the same time you're learning something new. And like before that video, I never knew you could add grommets yourself. Like I knew, but now I know actually how to do it. So that's really cool. Like you learn a new experience and then you get the outcome of it, which most of the time is cheaper than just buying it from someone else. And also the last point that I have about this topic is that it really reflects into a lot of the things I like. So even my nails, I love when people have nails that are just really like a modge podge of charms and designs and colors. Like I love when things are just so like clunky, and I think it's just so much more like satisfying and interesting me than something that's just like a cohesive design across all the nails. So yeah, I think I love like experimenting with different textures, different colors, different designs, and I think that 3D element is something that feels a lot more tangible with clothing. The next thing I love is ruffles. Not the chip, but the chip is really delicious. I do love me a good Ruffles chip, but ruffles, when it comes to the fabric, I think is so beautiful. I don't know what it is. I think it just like scratches a certain part of my brain, and I really love the movement of ruffles, especially when you're wearing it. It feels so flowy, and like the fabric has this like water element, and I love seeing them styled in a more Baroque way, because that's where they actually originated from, the Renaissance era. So I think that symbolism between the era and that trend is really cool. Some of my favorite designers incorporate this into their art, and I think it's so cool seeing how different designers interpret it. I forgot where was I going? I think it's so cool how different designers can interpret it. One of my favorite designers, Betsey Johnson, I love her vintage pieces, and a lot of her vintage pieces have ruffles in it. So I'm always on the lookout for Betsey Johnson stuff. I have yet to find something, but one day I will find a Betsey Johnson dress with ruffles in it. That's my next purchase. Also recently, I think ruffled collars, or like those Victorian collars, are so cool, especially on the sleeves too. Those are really cool. I would think I would definitely want to get one. I saw one on Etsy for a good price, and so I think it's just like a cool accessory to potentially style in the future. Something that I've noticed is that I gravitate towards a era of fashion that combines a certain degree of acceptance and a certain degree of resistance. I love when designers can make people feel disgust, but at the same time admiration, because it's just so beautiful, like beautifully crafted. And I think that's such a rare talent to have. Very few designers, I feel like, have done that before, but when they do, it's just like the most insane thing. I know I keep using Vivienne Westwood as an example, but even that chicken bone shirt was an example, because it's like something so like grotesque, but you're so intrigued by it that you feel like you have to sort of look at it. But yeah, Vivienne Westwood, I'm gonna use her as an example because she literally sort of helped invent this concept in fashion, or I think she was one of the very few people to do it right. Her very first collection and her very first fashion show was with her partner Malcolm McLaren in 1971, and the whole show was centered around the idea of pirates. It had a heavy theme of being a rejection of modern fashion during that time. What's unique about it is that it sort of came after punk fashion had its spotlight. People during that time were ironically getting tired of the uniformity of punk and just the sameness of it. It just became too oversaturated with people who were wearing punk fashion as an aesthetic and not as a lifestyle, so people were craving something new. And thus, a new, fresh attitude was born called New Romanticism. And this is where we see Vivienne Westwood's collection be born, which was sort of the opposite of punk culture. Punk was more black and white, it was more edgy and hard, whereas this New Romanticism was soft and lighthearted, and it was bright and had bold colors, flashy, and more humorous than punk, I think. Punk culture was dead, but in return, it birthed a sister that was more lighthearted and playful. This shift in culture evolved into a more romantic and theatrical interpretation of punk, but it still held on to its core values, which is resistance. Whenever I see this Pirates collection, I think it's bright and it's silly and the silhouettes are so fun, but let's not forget what Pirates stood for during that time. They were the outcasts and criminals of society. They were everything that stood and went against cultural norms and social norms and what was deemed proper during that era. So even though this collection may seem innocent, I think there's still heavy undertones of defiance, and to me that's just very poetic. I just love when there's contradictions in fashion or just in art in general. I love when things that you wouldn't imagine being paired together are paired together, and surprisingly they like complement each other. And I think Vivienne Westwood manages to capture that in such a fun and innovative way. And her work, this Pirates collection, would go on to influence this generation even now. Like, it's really cool seeing how it's evolved, and it's just like really fascinating to see this connection of art continuously being brought up to this day, and seeing different designers, which some of them are my favorite designers, and it's so cool seeing them take this concept and interpret, seeing how my favorite designers interpret my other favorite designers. So yeah, that's something that I really like. So I've been really into graphic design recently, And something that I really love is when it interacts and coexists within fashion, specifically in the form of collages and sort of like just an assortment of images that are sort of altered to be mashed together in a artistic way. Like, that just makes me so happy. Some brands that I've noticed that do this is one of my favorite brands, actually, Cap Copine. It's a French brand, I believe. And if you've spent any amount of time scrolling through Depop, you've probably seen this brand before. It's often very expensive and it's highly sought after, especially for the vintage pieces. So it's pretty prevalent even now today. This brand has a lot of clothing that has graphics on it, and it's just in collaboration with art and fashion. And so I just really appreciate most of the ones that I've seen so far. I'm like actually curious like who's designed these graphics, because it's such a specific style of art. And yeah, I just really think it's cool. The colors are like so complementary, and then the graphics all really mash well together. They're really famous for their long sleeve mesh shirts. I've seen those a lot, but other than those, like their clothes just all have a consistent theme of being creative and playful. If you're ever wanting to buy more unique clothes, I think this would be a really cool brand to start with, because all of their clothes are so unique, yet they're very distinct. I've worn one of my Cap Copine long sleeves out before, and this girl was like, oh my god, is that Cap Copine? But it's like kind of like if you know, you know type of thing. And it's like in a good way that they recognize it. They don't recognize it because it's like worn everywhere. They recognize it because it's like so niche, and that's what I love about it. Another brand that does this really well is Dido Shop. It's a Korean brand, and I actually have a few of their pieces, and every time I wear them out I get compliments. Yeah, it's a brand that I really think does like this futuristic vibe really well. I've seen a lot of K-pop idols wear this brand, and that sort of ties into my next topic actually, which is K-pop. My K-pop journey started very early, and it started before K-pop was like a trend now. There used to be such a stigma against liking K-pop, and I'm so glad now that it's like something to be celebrated, because back then if you liked K-pop, you were the weird one. But whereas now it's like if you don't like K-pop, like you're the weird one. So that's something that I'm glad is more normalized, because K-pop's freaking awesome. I'm not as into it as I used to be. I sort of hate what's come of it. I think it's just become too oversaturated and a little too manufactured, and I think there's nothing more ingenuine than forced perfection. So that's why I've sort of taken a step back from it, but I still, every now and then, I will find myself listening to some K-pop songs I like. So I'm more of a casual listener now, because it can get a little cultish when it comes to K-pop. Like, people take it so serious. But what I originally loved about K-pop, and what I still do, is the devotion to concepts and to styles. And I guess that's sort of like a love-hate relationship I have with it, because on one hand, I really love how much groups can commit to a certain concept and how flawlessly they can execute it. But on the other hand, I feel like that drives away authenticity. Two of my favorite groups right now are aespa, which is a girl group, and then my favorite boy group is NCT. They're both from SM Entertainment. I don't know if that's just a coincidence or if I just like that company, but I feel like both those groups just have something really unique and experimental about them. Not only is the music and the music videos and the dances like really unique, but the actual fashion that they're wearing I think is so like against the current. A lot of the times, more than anything, I find myself looking at the clothes they're wearing, because it's just so carefully curated, and I just like have to appreciate the effort that the stylists go to. Whenever I'm having outfit block, something I like to do is look at K-pop idols' outfit and sort of dissect them down and like see how I can incorporate that into my own closet or my own outfit. Not only like the formula of their outfit, but I also like to see what brands they're wearing, because a lot of the times it's brands I've never heard of. And surprisingly, it's not always like luxurious, you know, high-end brands like you think it would be like that, but a lot of the times they're just wearing like clothes that are just easily accessible and are relatively normally priced. There was this one time I was looking for a pair of ankle boots, and I just really wanted a pair that was comfortable, and I was like, how am I gonna find a pair? And then I was like, wait, I know K-pop idols love to wear boots, and so I was looking through aespa when they were performing, I forget what song it was, but Karina was wearing these boots that I thought were really cute, and I did reverse Google image search on her boots, and it came up to be this brand called, I don't know what the brand is, but I'll put it on the screen. yeah, Karina was wearing these boots. So, you know, if it weren't for K-pop, I wouldn't have found these shoes. So I think it's just sort of like an opportunity for you to sort of either find something specific with what's out there, or if you want to experiment. I think K-pop sort of gives that opportunity to do so. So yeah, even if you don't like K-pop or don't listen to it, I think everyone can acknowledge like how insane the concepts are, and like it's just like amazing. I think it's really cool. Next up is something very specific that I've had my eyes on since the day it came into this world. It's the Chopova Lowena skirt. Now, I love this brand as a whole. I think they constantly come out with collections that are just really unique and cool. But this skirt, I feel like, is sort of what initially intrigued me to them, and I feel like it just has a special place in my heart. Like, I would love to own one. Can I afford one? But I think it's just something that I would love to put on my body one day, and I don't even have to own it. Like, I just want to put it on my body. I'm manifesting it into my life. I will try it on one day. I saw a video recently of how they craft these skirts, and I think the prices definitely reflect like the one-of-a-kind specialness of these skirts. And I'm just in awe of how far they go to make sure that these skirts are produced with quality and repurposed with fabrics that are like outsourced from, you know, really random places. But yeah, I just think it's really cool, and I really love them. If you know me, or if you've watched my other fashion videos, you know that I never shut up about Fruits magazines and the people in them. I just feel such a sense of connection and relatability to the outfits in Fruits magazines, but I feel like I never really questioned what I actually liked about them. I just sort of was like, oh yeah, that's cool. That's sort of my explanation for anything if I don't know why I like it. Until this video right now, I feel like making this video has helped me understand my style so much more. And honestly, I encourage you guys to do the same. Don't just mindlessly like stuff and save it on your Pinterest and then never look at it again. Like, do some research and like take a step back and find patterns within yourself, because it's fun. Like, I think it's fun, at least. Anyways, what I learned about myself is that I feel like I have a passion for, I don't even really know how to explain it because it's not something that's like easily explained with words. I read this article with Soichi Aoki, and he's the founder and photographer of Fruits magazine, and he's someone that I really feel like understands and has the eye for creativity in fashion. He said something that really resonated with me. He said, "90s fashion was creative, but Harajuku fashion is not rebellion against something, it's simply an ability." Which, to me, I interpreted it as having this genuine desire to be creative outside of styles and specific cultures that already exist. Because if you look at most of the outfits in Fruits magazines, a lot of it is like you can't explain the style behind it. You can't really explain why you like it, because it's really just a jumble of different genres in fashion. There's not really a cohesive meaning or value between it all if it's so mixed up. It's so random, and you can't explain a unique style because it's a unique style, you know? And that was sort of the goal between the people in Fruits magazines. It was to combine Japanese fashion with Western fashion. So, for example, you'll see them wearing tabbies. And no, not the Margiela tabbies, because Margiela didn't invent tabbies. The original traditional Japanese shoe, the tabby, being worn with the Western influence of like a cowboy hat or something. It was all about DIY and wearing whatever you think is different. And a lot of the times people think different is weird, but I feel like that was sort of the goal, was to be weird to outsiders' perspectives. I don't think any of these people in this magazine were going to the mall and picking out an outfit that was mass produced. Granted, fast fashion barely existed then, but still, it's inspired me to not want to do the same. Like, I don't want to go to the mall and wear what everyone else is wearing because they weren't, and they look cool because they weren't. This is sort of like really going off topic, but not really. It's my video. I can talk about whatever I want. But I feel like this is so much more relevant now than ever. I think there's a difference between actually being part of a specific subculture and then being a part of this weird desire to put a label on everything. I get the appeal of wanting to appear a certain way or achieve a certain vibe. You know, you want to look like Lana Del Rey, coquette. Like, I get it, but at the same time, once it becomes too manufactured and like you're following a certain set of rules, it just defeats the purpose of personal style to me, because that's not personal at all. Like, that's someone else made that and said that, oh, this is that and this is that. And so Like, I don't mean for this to sound pretentious at all, but if you're trying to have a personal style, I think you should avoid those, you know, catchy aesthetics and buzzwords that are always being thrown around. And I'm not saying you can't dress a certain way. Like, there's some days where I want to dress a little more edgier and a little more punk, so I'll wear, you know, wherever that fits into that context. But there's some days where I want to look a little more Y2K and like a famous 2000 celebrity. Like today, that's literally what I was going for today. So do whatever you want. But once you start putting yourself into this box and following these really specific descriptions and categories, it ironically starts to limit the possibilities of what you can wear. I think, you know, those descriptions, I think it's something you could possibly experiment with. Like, if you're just at the beginning of wanting to develop your style a little more, I think it's something that could, you know, give you guidance, but you don't want to fall into it too much. Like in my case, I really love Fruits magazines and I love the way they dress in them, but I'm not gonna find a specific picture of one of them, of one of the models in the magazines, and be like, I'm gonna find this exact same outfit. For me, I wanna be inspired by it and do my own thing with it. I actually did that in a whole entire video. I made my own outfits based off the magazine. But yeah, that's just always been my goal with fashion, is to take what I like from it and spin it in my own way and not, you know, copy and paste. But to each their own. That's just my personal journey with fashion. And that's how I want to participate in it. One of my favorite collections by Alexander McQueen was his Joan of Arc collection. I think it's just so incredibly impactful, and the emotions you get from it are like inexplainable. And I feel like really that's lacking in fashion right now. This like ability to storytell and be theatrical without being like gimmicky is really something that's so crucial to fashion. I love the tones of it. There's like a lot of silvers, reds, and blacks. I just think it was executed in a really brilliant way. Alexander McQueen is an absolute genius, and I can't even say this is my favorite collection because really all of his collections are so unique, and it's hard to have a favorite one when they're all so different. But yeah, this is it for today's video. I definitely have a lot more things I could probably talk about, so if y'all want a part 2 to this video, I would definitely make a part 2 in the future. Let me know what your favorite fashion niches are and maybe what your favorite trends are. I don't know, but yeah, I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye.